Michael Carter, a successful diner owner, wakes up in an ICU bed, surrounded by the cold beeping of machines. His body is weak, but the shock of overhearing his wife Linda's plan to claim his fortune and take over his diner brings him to a chilling realization. Pretending to remain unconscious, Michael quickly understands the depth of Linda's betrayal. She's not only unfaithful, but also plotting with her lover to ensure Michael's demise. Determined to take back control of his life, Michael finds an unexpected ally in a compassionate nurse named Emily. Together, they plan his escape, and Michael sets out on a journey to reclaim his life and his diner. Facing betrayal at home and challenges at every turn, Michael's resilience, along with Emily's unwavering support, helps him gather the strength to confront Linda and her lover. With the help of loyal friends and employees, Michael uncovers the full extent of Linda's deceit, bringing her to justice and reclaiming his diner. The story takes a turn from betrayal and despair to hope and renewal, as Michael rebuilds his life with the support of his newfound family. In the end, Michael not only takes back what was his, but also finds love and loyalty in the people who stood by him. The journey from heartbreak to healing culminates in a celebration of resilience, loyalty, and a future filled with hope. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Michael Carter, once the proud owner of a thriving diner in Los Angeles, awoke to the sterile, cold confines of an ICU room. The dim light barely illuminated the space, and the persistent, rhythmic beeping of medical machines echoed in his ears. His entire body felt as though it was weighed down by an unbearable force, rendering him weak and helpless. His thoughts were a foggy mess, drifting in and out of focus. As he struggled to piece together the fragments of his memory, a familiar voice pierced through the haze, sending a shock wave through his heart. "Yes, darling, everything is arranged. The will favors me now," his wife, Linda, whispered into her phone, her tone laced with chilling certainty. "Once he's out of the picture, the diner and all his wealth will be ours." A surge of fear gripped Michael's chest, his heart pounding violently against his ribs. He forced himself to remain still, feigning unconsciousness while barely opening his eyes to catch a glimpse of Linda. She stood by his bedside, her demeanor icy and calculating, a stranger he could barely recognize as the woman he once loved. The horrifying truth crashed down on him with brutal clarity. Linda was plotting to seize his entire fortune, even if it meant ensuring he never left that hospital bed alive. Worse still, she was conspiring with another man, her lover, to make it happen. As Linda ended her call, Michael's mind spiraled back to the events that led him here. He had harbored doubts about her fidelity for months: the late-night absences, the secretive phone calls, the sudden coldness that had crept into their marriage. Each was a warning sign he had desperately tried to ignore until the night his worst fears materialized. That night, driven by a gnawing suspicion, Michael had trailed Linda to a luxurious hotel, hoping against hope that he was wrong. But as he watched from the shadows, his heart shattered into pieces. Linda, the woman he had dedicated his life to, was laughing and holding hands with a man in the hotel lobby. The sight of her blatant betrayal sent Michael into a tailspin. He drove aimlessly through the dark streets of the city, consumed by a mix of anger and despair, until a sudden, devastating car crash almost claimed his life. Now, lying in that hospital bed, Michael knew he had to summon every ounce of strength he had left. He decided to maintain the ruse, pretending to remain comatose while he plotted his next move. He needed time to regain his strength, to think clearly, and most importantly, to devise a plan that would expose Linda's treachery and reclaim everything she intended to steal from him. Days turned into weeks as Michael silently observed Linda's every move. Her conversations with her lover, her blatant disregard for his health, and the coldness in her eyes confirmed that she had no intention of letting him survive. But amidst the darkness, a small glimmer of hope appeared. A nurse named Emily, with a warm touch and a caring heart, began tending to him. Unlike Linda, Emily's presence brought comfort and reassurance. Her genuine concern for his well-being rekindled something within Michael, a belief that not everyone was out to destroy him. He knew then that he needed an ally, and Emily seemed like the only person he could trust in this bleak and dangerous time. Emily, Michael whispered one evening when the room was silent and the shadows played across the walls. Her heart skipped a beat as she turned to him, startled but alert. "Please," he continued, his voice barely more than a breath. "Don't tell anyone I'm awake. I need your help." Emily's eyes widened in shock, but she quickly regained her composure, nodding in understanding. "What do you need, Michael?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. His eyes, though weary, burned with a quiet determination. "I have to get out of here," he replied, each word laced with urgency. "Linda is planning something horrible. I can't let her win." Emily's expression shifted from surprise to concern, her heart aching for the man who had suffered so much. "You're not ready to leave yet," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "But I'll help you. We have to be careful." In the days that followed, a clandestine plan took shape between them. Emily smuggled in clothes, helped him regain his strength by walking short distances, and secured a driver who could discreetly take them away. Each step was a small victory, but the path was fraught with tension. Finally, on a night when the hospital was cloaked in silence, Emily wheeled Michael out of his room, their hearts pounding in unison. They moved like ghosts through the empty corridors, avoiding the gaze of anyone who might see. The moment they stepped outside, the cool night air enveloped Michael, invigorating him with a sense of freedom he hadn't felt in weeks. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he felt alive. The drive to his home was a crucible of anxiety and anticipation. Michael's mind raced, filled with thoughts of confrontation, justice, and the life he was about to reclaim. As they approached his front door, a mixture of dread and determination surged within him. He reached for his keys, but when they failed to turn in the lock, his heart sank. Linda had changed them. But this obstacle only fueled his resolve. He rang the doorbell, his hand steady despite the storm brewing inside him. The sound of approaching footsteps made his pulse quicken. When the door finally creaked open, the sight that greeted him was both infuriating and validating. There, in his own home, stood a man clad in Michael's robe, radiating an arrogant confidence that made Michael's blood boil. "Who the hell are you?" the man sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're not supposed to be here." Before Michael could respond, Linda appeared in the doorway, her face draining of color as their eyes locked. "Michael, you're supposed to be dead," she stammered, the fear in her voice betraying her guilt. "Not quite," Linda, Michael replied coldly, stepping forward. "You've got some explaining to do." Panic flickered across Linda's face as she struggled to fabricate an excuse. I thought you were gone, Michael." "It's not what it seems," but Michael wasn't interested in her lies. His gaze was icy, his voice unyielding. "Save it. You and your lover have 5 minutes to pack your things and get out of my house." The man in the robe, trying to muster some bravado, stepped closer. "You need to leave," he growled, his voice low and threatening. But Michael's resolve was like steel. "I'm not going anywhere," he declared, his tone brooking no argument. "This is my home. Now get out." Realizing they had no other choice, Linda and her lover scrambled to gather their belongings, their arrogance dissolving into panic. As they left, Michael stood tall, a torrent of emotions raging within him: anger, betrayal, but also a fierce relief. They were gone, but the wounds they had inflicted were deep. Yet, as he stepped into his home, he knew that this was not the end, but a new beginning. His body trembled from the strain of the confrontation, and as he sank into a chair, Emily sat beside him, her presence a soothing balm to his battered soul. "You did it, Michael," she said softly, her hand resting on his shoulder. "They're gone," Michael nodded, his eyes still burning with determination. "This is just the start," he replied. his voice resolute. "I need to rebuild everything they tried to take from me, and I'll need your help." Emily smiled warmly, her eyes filled with unwavering support. "You have it," every step of the way she assured him. With Emily by his side, Michael felt a renewed strength. The road ahead would be challenging, fraught with obstacles and the shadows of the past, but he was ready. It was time to reclaim his life, his diner, and his future from the ruins that Linda had left behind. As dawn broke the next morning, Michael awoke with a sense of purpose. The exhaustion from the previous night still clung to him, but so did a newfound resolve. He knew the journey ahead would be arduous, but with Emily by his side, he felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. The battle for his life, his dignity, and his legacy had only just begun. The first step in reclaiming his life was to rally the people Michael trusted most: Frank, the loyal janitor who had been with the diner through thick and thin, and Sarah, the dedicated dishwasher who had tried to warn him about the impending disaster. With Emily by his side, Michael made his way to the diner, each step a painful reminder of the battles he had fought and the ones still to come. He moved slowly, leaning heavily on a cane, but his eyes burned with a fierce determination that refused to be extinguished. As they entered the familiar yet unfamiliar space, a hush fell over the room. The staff, who had believed their boss was still clinging to life in a hospital bed, stared in stunned silence, whispers rippling through the air like a current. Michael's heart pounded in his chest as he made his way to his office, the place where he had once felt invincible, now tinged with the bitter taste of betrayal. Frank was the first to break through the shock, hurrying over with wide eyes. "Mr. Carter, is it you? We thought you were." Frank's voice trailed off, unable to finish the sentence that hung in the air like a specter. Michael offered a faint, yet genuine smile. "It's me, Frank. I've been through hell, and I've got a lot to explain, but first I need your help. Can you gather everyone? There's something I need to share without hesitation." Frank nodded, his expression a mix of relief and concern as he rushed off to gather the employees. Within minutes, the staff assembled, their faces a mosaic of curiosity, concern, and disbelief. Michael stood before them, taking a deep, steadying breath. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his voice carrying the weight of everything he had endured. "I know my sudden appearance is a shock, but I needed to see you all first. I want to thank each of you for keeping this diner running in my absence. It means more to me than you could ever know." A murmur of acknowledgement passed through the crowd, some of the employees nodding in agreement, others too stunned to react. Michael continued, his voice tinged with a mix of sorrow and resolve. "I've recently uncovered a betrayal that has cut me to the core. My wife, Linda, and her lover plotted to take everything from me: the diner, my fortune, my life. But with Emily's help, I've managed to return and reclaim what's mine." Gasps filled the room, the employees exchanging incredulous glances, their disbelief palpable. Michael held up his hand, urging them to quiet down. "I know this is a lot to process, but I need your support now more than ever. Frank, Sarah, please step forward." The two exchanged puzzled glances before stepping out of the crowd, their expressions a mix of surprise and apprehension. Michael smiled at them, the warmth of his gratitude shining through the pain. "Frank, you've been with this diner for years, always steadfast, always dependable. Sarah, you warned me about the danger I was in, and I didn't listen. For that, I owe you not just an apology, but my deepest gratitude." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she shook her head, overwhelmed. "Mr. Carter, I was just trying to help. I didn't want anything bad to happen to you." Michael's voice softened as he replied, "You did more than help, Sarah. You saved my life. And because of that, I want to offer you a promotion to assistant chef. Your dedication and hard work have not gone unnoticed, and it's time you received the recognition you deserve." Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief, her mouth opening and closing as she struggled to find words. "Assistant chef? Are you?" "Are you serious?" "Absolutely," Michael confirmed, his voice unwavering. "And Frank, I need you to keep being the rock of this place. Your experience, your loyalty, they are invaluable to me." A broad smile spread across Frank's face, his chest swelling with pride. "You can count on me, Mr. Carter. Always." A sense of warmth spread through Michael's chest as he looked at the faces of his loyal employees. "Thank you, all of you. But there's one more person I need to find: Jake, the man who saved me from the burning wreckage of my car." Emily stepped forward, her eyes filled with understanding. "I think I know where we can find him. He usually stays near the old warehouse on 5th Street. Michael turned to her, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Then let's go. We owe him everything." The journey to the old warehouse district was grueling, each step a reminder of Michael's weakened state, but he pressed on, driven by a need to repay the debt he owed to the man who had saved his life. As they approached the crumbling building, they spotted a figure slumped against the wall, his face weathered and tired. "Jake," Michael called out, his voice echoing in the stillness. The man looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes as he took in the sight of Michael standing before him. "Do I know you?" he asked, his voice hoarse from years of hardship. Michael stepped closer, his heart swelling with gratitude. "It's me, Michael Carter. You saved my life that night." Recognition slowly dawned on Jake's face, his expression softening. "I remember. You're the guy from the car accident." "Yes," Michael nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "And I owe you everything. I want to offer you a job at my diner. You risked your life for me, and I want to give you a chance to rebuild yours." Jake hesitated, uncertainty etched into his features. "A job? I don't know. I haven't had a steady job in years." Michael's eyes were pleading as he responded, "Please, Jake. You deserve this chance just as much as I do. Let's rebuild our lives together." Jake looked at Michael, then at Emily, who offered him an encouraging nod. After a long moment, Jake sighed and nodded. "All right," he said quietly. "I'll give it a try." A wave of relief washed over Michael as he smiled. "Thank you, Jake. Let's go back to the diner. We have a lot of work to do." With renewed purpose, the three of them turned back toward the diner. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but with the support of those who had stood by him, Michael knew he was ready to face whatever challenges lay in wait. Together they would rebuild not just a business, but a family forged in the fires of betrayal, loyalty, and redemption. As Michael and his loyal companions returned to the diner, a powerful wave of hope surged within him, mingled with a fierce resolve. The road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but with the unwavering support of his friends Frank, Sarah, Jake, and Emily, Michael felt an unshakable determination to piece together the shattered remnants of his life. This wasn't just the beginning of a new chapter, it was the dawn of a story filled with resilience, loyalty, and the pursuit of redemption. Michael knew that with this group by his side, they could surmount any obstacle that dared to cross their path. But as he gathered his team, Michael's confidence was tempered by the gnawing betrayal that clung to him like a shadow. The sting of his wife Linda's treachery was a wound that cut deep, and the desire for justice burned hotter with each passing day. The diner may have been the first step in reclaiming his life, but uncovering the full scope of Linda's deceit was now his primary mission. He needed to expose her web of lies and ensure she faced the consequences of her actions. In the dimly lit office of the diner, the group huddled together, their expressions mirroring the gravity of the situation. "We have to gather irrefutable evidence of Linda's involvement in the accident," Michael declared, his voice betraying the quiet storm of fury within him. "She cannot be allowed to walk away from this unscathed." Jake, ever the street-smart ally, leaned in with a glint of determination in his eyes. "I know a guy, a private investigator who owes me a favor. He's the kind of person who can dig up dirt on anyone, and I'm sure he can get what we need on Linda and her lover." Michael's heart swelled with gratitude. "That's a solid lead, Jake. Let's move forward with it." Emily, he turned to her with a look of trust. "Can you hold down the fort here at the diner without hesitation?" Emily nodded, her resolve as firm as his. "I'll make sure everything is under control, Michael." "You can count on me, Sarah. Ever the practical support," added. "I'll keep the kitchen running smoothly. We'll keep the diner thriving while you focus on clearing your name." With a plan taking shape, Michael and Jake ventured out to meet the private investigator, a grizzled man named Tony, who had seen more than his fair share of life's dark corners. As Michael laid out the situation, Tony's eyes narrowed, his mind already working through the possibilities. "So, you're convinced your wife and her lover orchestrated your accident?" Tony asked, his voice gruff but intrigued. Michael's response was firm, though the pain of betrayal still echoed in his tone. "I'm certain of it. I just need the evidence to prove it." Tony gave a curt nod. "Leave it with me. I'll start digging and let you know what I find." As days turned into nights, Michael threw himself into the daily grind of the diner, determined to keep the illusion of normalcy, even as the storm brewed beneath the surface. He worked closely with Sarah in the kitchen, ensuring everything ran smoothly, while overseeing Jake's transition into his new role as manager. Every moment was a careful balance of maintaining the business while preparing for the battle that lay ahead. Then, one fateful evening, as the last patrons trickled out and the diner settled into its nighttime hush, Michael's phone rang. Tony's voice was gruff and to the point. "I've got something for you. Come to my office." A tight knot of anxiety twisted in Michael's gut as he made his way to meet Tony. When he arrived, the investigator handed him a thick folder, its weight a tangible representation of the gravity of the situation. "Everything you need is in here," Tony said, his tone serious. "Bank statements, phone records, emails, it's all there. Linda and her lover planned this for months. They set the stage for your accident, hoping you'd be out of the picture so they could take everything." Michael's hands trembled as he flipped through the damning evidence. The depth of Linda's betrayal was more chilling, more calculated than he had ever imagined. "Thank you, Tony," he managed to say, though his voice was thick with emotion. "This is exactly what I needed." The path ahead was clear now. Linda would be brought to justice. Returning to the diner, Michael found his friends waiting with anxious anticipation. As he held up the folder, his voice rang with a mix of triumph and pain. "We've got the proof. Linda and her lover's days of freedom are numbered." The final step was to take this evidence to the authorities. With Emily by his side, Michael walked into the police station, the weight of the folder in his hands symbolizing the burden he had carried for far too long. Detective Harris listened intently as Michael laid out the details, flipping through the incriminating documents. "This is solid evidence," Harris said, a serious look on his face. "We'll launch an investigation immediately, but be prepared, Linda won't go down without a fight. This could get ugly." Michael nodded, the steel in his eyes unyielding. "I'm ready for whatever it takes. She has to pay for what she's done, and I won't stop until justice is served." This wasn't just about reclaiming his life, it was about restoring the balance of right and wrong, and Michael was ready to fight until the very end. As the investigation unfolded, the dark shadows of Linda's betrayal began to stretch far beyond the confines of Michael's personal life, casting a long and painful shadow over the small town. Rumors of her deceit, once whispered in hushed tones, now echoed loudly in every corner, from the local grocery store to the community center. It wasn't just news, it was a scandal that rattled the very core of the town's sense of justice and morality. For Michael, the betrayal wasn't just a personal affront, it was a wound that cut deep into the fabric of his life, threatening to unravel everything he had worked so hard to build. But as the truth came to light, something remarkable happened. The very fabric that seemed on the verge of unraveling began to weave itself into something stronger, more resilient. The staff at the diner, who had always been more like a family than just co-workers, rallied around Michael with a fierce sense of loyalty and determination. Their support was more than just comforting words, it was a lifeline that kept him grounded amid the chaos. Every day they stood by him, not just as employees but as friends who were ready to fight for justice alongside him. One ordinary afternoon, as Michael was in the kitchen helping Sarah with the daily prep work, Emily burst through the swinging doors, her face flushed with urgency and her eyes wide with the kind of excitement that bordered on disbelief. Her hand shook as she held up her phone, her voice trembling with the weight of the news she carried. "Michael," she began, her breath coming in short gasps as she tried to steady herself. "You need to see this." She handed the phone to Michael, her fingers brushing his as she did so, a silent transfer of the emotional load she had been carrying. Michael took the phone, his heart pounding in his chest, a drumbeat of anxiety that echoed in his ears. As he read the headline, the world seemed to tilt slightly on its axis. "Linda has been arrested." Emily continued, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking it too loudly might shatter the fragile reality. "The police have gathered enough evidence to charge her and her lover with conspiracy and attempted murder." Michael felt a surge of relief so intense that it nearly knocked him off his feet. The tension that had been coiled tightly in his chest for weeks began to unwind, leaving him feeling lightheaded and unsteady. "It's finally happening," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "Justice is finally being served." That evening, the diner was transformed from a place of quiet resolve into a lively hub of celebration. The usual hum of conversation was replaced with laughter and cheers as word of Linda's arrest spread like wildfire. Frank, Sarah, and Jake moved through the diner with renewed energy, their steps lightened by the news that had lifted the heavy burden of uncertainty from their shoulders. Customers who had been following Michael's story with bated breath joined in the celebration, their loyalty to him reaffirmed in every toast, every kind word. Amid the bustling diner, Michael and Emily managed to steal a quiet moment together in the small office at the back. The noise from the diner was a distant murmur, and the dim light from the desk lamp cast a soft, golden glow over the room. Emily took Michael's hand in hers, her grip firm and reassuring, the connection between them palpable in the silence. "You did it, Michael," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of pride and affection that tugged at Michael's heart. "You stood up to them and came out stronger on the other side." Michael looked at her, his heart swelling with gratitude and something deeper, something that had been growing quietly in the background through all the turmoil. "I couldn't have done it without all of you," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "This diner, these people, they're not just my team, they're my family now. And you've been my rock through all of this." He paused, swallowing hard as he tried to find the right words to express the depth of his feelings. "I don't know what I would have done without you, Emily." As the night wore on, and the last of the customers trickled out, Michael stood in the middle of the empty diner, taking it all in. The battle wasn't over. There were still legal challenges ahead, still wounds that needed time to heal. But for the first time in what felt like forever, Michael felt something he hadn't dared to feel: hope. He had faced betrayal and emerged not just unscathed, but stronger, more resilient. He was ready to rebuild, to take the shattered pieces of his life and mold them into something even better than before. And he knew, without a doubt, that with his newfound family by his side, there was no challenge too great for them to overcome. The weeks that followed Linda's arrest were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and emotional highs and lows for Michael Carter. The courthouse became a familiar setting, its cold, sterile walls a stark contrast to the warmth and support he found back at the diner. Each day in court was a grueling test of his resolve, as the evidence against Linda and her lover was laid bare for the world to see. The meticulous work of Tony, the tenacious private investigator, had left no stone unturned, and the case against Linda was ironclad. But that didn't make it any easier. Each hearing, each testimony was a painful reminder of the betrayal that had almost destroyed him. Yet through it all, Michael found strength in the unwavering support of his friends. Emily, Sarah, Frank, and Jake became his pillars, holding him up when the weight of the trial threatened to bring him down. They attended every court session, their presence a constant reminder that he wasn't fighting this battle alone. The diner, too, became a refuge, a place where Michael could escape the harsh realities of the courtroom and immerse himself in the comforting routine of cooking, serving, and managing. It was in those quiet moments, surrounded by the familiar sounds and smells of the diner, that Michael found a semblance of peace. One crisp autumn morning, Michael found himself standing in the courtroom, his heart pounding as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict. The room was filled with tense silence, the kind that makes every sound the shuffle of papers, the creak of a chair seem deafening. Michael's breath caught in his throat as the judge's voice rang out, clear and final. Linda and her lover were found guilty of conspiracy and attempted murder. The sentences were harsh, a reflection of the gravity of their crimes, and as the gavel came down, signaling the end of the trial, Michael felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over him. It was as if a giant weight had been lifted from his shoulders, one that he had been carrying for far too long. As he stepped out of the courthouse, the cool breeze hit his face, a refreshing reminder that life, despite all its trials, continued. Waiting for him outside were Emily, Sarah, Frank, and Jake, their faces etched with expressions of relief, pride, and unwavering support. They had been there every step of the way, and now, as the chapter of betrayal and heartache finally came to a close, they were there to share in the victory. "It's finally over," Michael said, his voice a mixture of exhaustion and immense relief. He looked at each of them, his eyes filled with gratitude. Emily was the first to step forward, wrapping him in a tight embrace that spoke volumes of the bond they had forged through this ordeal. "You did it, Michael," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Justice is served, and now you can finally start to heal." At that moment, surrounded by the people who had become his true family, Michael knew that while the road ahead would still be challenging, he had the strength and support to face whatever came his way. The battle was won, and with his loyal friends by his side, he was ready to embrace the new life that awaited him, a life rebuilt on the foundations of trust, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond with those who had stood by him in his darkest hour. Back at the diner, the atmosphere was electric with joy and relief. The clinking of glasses and the sound of laughter filled the room as customers and staff alike celebrated not just Michael's victory, but the dawn of a new chapter in their collective story. This was more than a celebration of one man's triumph over betrayal. It was a testament to the strength of a community bound by loyalty, trust, and unyielding support. The diner, once a simple establishment, had become a symbol of resilience, a place where people came together not just to eat, but to find hope and camaraderie. A few days after the celebration, Michael called a meeting with his core team: Emily, Frank, Sarah, and Jake. The meeting was set in the cozy confines of the diner's office, a place that had witnessed countless discussions and decisions over the years, but none as significant as the one about to unfold. The air was thick with anticipation as the group gathered around the small table, each of them curious about what Michael had in mind. Michael took a deep breath, looking around at the faces of the people who had become more than just colleagues. They were his family. "I want to start by saying thank you," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Thank you for your unwavering support, for standing by me when everything seemed to be falling apart. This diner wouldn't be what it is today without each of you. And because of that, I've been doing a lot of thinking about the future, about what comes next. I've decided it's time for some changes." Frank and Sarah exchanged curious glances, while Jake leaned forward, his attention fully on Michael. Emily, sitting beside him, gave his hand a gentle squeeze, silently encouraging him to continue. "Frank," Michael said, turning to the man who had been with him through thick and thin, "your dedication and hard work have kept this place running smoothly for years. You've been the backbone of this diner. and I want you to take on more responsibility. I'm promoting you to operations manager. Your experience is invaluable, and I know you'll do great in this role." Frank's eyes widened in surprise, the weight of the moment settling in. "Operations manager? Michael, I don't know what to say. This means a lot. Thank you." Michael smiled warmly. "You've earned it, Frank. I couldn't think of anyone better for the job." He then turned to Sarah, whose passion for cooking had brought a new energy to the diner's kitchen. "Sarah, your promotion to assistant chef is long overdue. Your talent and dedication have not gone unnoticed. You've brought something special to this place, and it's time you got the recognition you deserve." Sarah's face lit up with pride, her eyes shining. "Thank you, Michael. I won't let you down." Next, Michael looked at Jake, the youngest of the group, but someone who had shown courage and quick thinking when it was needed most. "Jake, your bravery saved my life. You've proven that you're not just smart on the streets, but that you've got what it takes to lead. I want you to step up as the new manager. Your street smarts, your ability to think on your feet, those are exactly what we need here." Jake looked stunned, his usual swagger replaced by a rare humility. "I don't know if I'm cut out for it, but I'll give it my best shot." Michael nodded. "You'll do great, Jake. I believe in you, and so does everyone else here." Finally, Michael turned to Emily, the woman who had been his rock, his confidante, and the person who had stood by him through the darkest of times. He took a deep breath, his heart racing as he prepared to take the most significant step of all. "Emily," he began, his voice softer now, filled with a tenderness that made the moment all the more poignant. "Your compassion and support have been my anchor. I wouldn't have made it through without you. I have something important to ask you." He paused, feeling the weight of the words he was about to say. Then, with his heart pounding in his chest, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Opening it to reveal a beautiful ring, he looked into Emily's eyes, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Emily, will you marry me?" The room fell into a hushed silence as Emily's eyes filled with tears. The surprise and joy on her face were clear as she struggled to find her voice. "Yes, Michael," she finally whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will." Cheers erupted from the team, their joy for the couple palpable as Michael slipped the ring onto Emily's finger. It was a moment of pure happiness, a symbol of the new beginnings that were unfolding not just for Michael and Emily, but for the entire Diner family. They had weathered the storm together, and now they were celebrating a future filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. In the months that followed, the diner thrived like never before. Frank's meticulous attention to detail ensured that operations ran smoothly, his experience and wisdom guiding every decision. Sarah's culinary skills, honed over years of hard work, brought new flavors and innovations to the menu, drawing in customers from all over town who couldn't get enough of her delicious creations. Jake, despite his initial doubts, proved to be a natural leader. His ability to connect with people, to handle challenges with grace and confidence, earned him the respect and admiration of both the staff and the customers. As for Michael and Emily, their love continued to grow, nurtured by the strong foundation they had built through adversity. The diner was more than just a place of business, it was the heart of their community, a place where people came together to share not just meals, but their lives. And as the diner flourished under the new management, it became a symbol of hope, a reminder that no matter how dark the night, there is always the promise of a brighter dawn. Michael and Emily's wedding was nothing short of a fairy tale, a testament to the strength of their bond and the transformative power of love. Surrounded by their dearest friends and the extended diner family, the ceremony was intimate yet profoundly moving. It was a reflection of their journey, one marked by trials, triumphs, and the deep-seated loyalty that had brought them together. As they exchanged vows, Michael was overwhelmed with gratitude, feeling that the love and support he had received had lifted him from the depths of despair and into a new life filled with hope and promise. Life at the diner had found its rhythm again, a melody of contentment and stability. Each day was a fresh start, a new opportunity to cherish the connections that had been forged through adversity. Michael had come to understand that true wealth was not measured in material possessions, but in the genuine bonds of friendship and trust that enriched his life. The diner, once a place of merely financial transactions and fleeting encounters, had transformed into a sanctuary of love and solidarity. One serene evening, as the diner prepared to close its doors for the night, Michael found himself in a reflective mood. Seated with Emily, Frank, Sarah, and Jake, he took a moment to appreciate the journey they had all shared. The warm glow of the diner's lights created an inviting atmosphere, a cocoon of warmth and camaraderie amidst the encroaching darkness outside. "We've been through so much together," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. The weight of their collective experiences was evident in his tone. "I couldn't have asked for a better family. Each one of you has played a crucial role in not just saving the diner, but in saving me." Frank, ever the pillar of strength, lifted his coffee cup with a smile. "To resilience, loyalty, and new beginnings," he said, his voice steady and sincere. The clinking of cups that followed was more than a mere gesture. It was a symbolic celebration of their shared victories and the bonds that had been solidified through trials. As the night continued to unfold, the diner's warm lights seemed to shine even brighter, casting a comforting glow over the group. Michael took a moment to look around at the faces of his friends, each one a reminder of the journey they had traversed together. They had all experienced betrayal in some form, yet through their collective strength and unwavering support, they had emerged stronger and more united than ever before. The challenges they had faced were not forgotten, but they had become part of a story that had forged unbreakable bonds. The future now seemed filled with promise, and Michael felt a profound sense of peace. The diner had become more than just a business. It was a beacon of hope, redemption, and the enduring power of love. In the heart of Los Angeles, amid the constant hum of the bustling city, Michael Carter and his diner family were poised to embrace a new chapter. Their journey together had been one of resilience and renewal, and as they faced the future, they did so with a unity and strength that promised to see them through whatever challenges lay ahead. United by loyalty and love, they were ready to build a future that honored the past while embracing the possibilities of tomorrow. Thank you for joining us on this deeply emotional journey of resilience, loyalty, and redemption. As we've explored the trials faced by Michael and his diner family, we've witnessed the transformative power of unwavering support, the strength found in true friendship, and the profound impact of overcoming betrayal. What have you learned from Michael's story? How do you think these lessons of courage, trust, and hope can apply to your own life? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Please comment below and share one key takeaway that you plan to bring into your own life. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring stories and content. Your support means the world to us.